Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session. Come on, Mikey Markham, you sausage.
Third time lucky.
Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus, back at the Bus Sessions podcast. Today, I've got a new mate on here with me. I'm going to get this name absolutely bang on. RGL, welcome aboard. Yeah. Should we tell everybody?
I am proud.
Should we break the wall? Should we tell them what we've just been through?
You can tell them what you've just been through. Nothing to do with me. I'm just here, dude. I'm just existing.
I got in my head about saying the business name right. So I was like, right, is it Gus? Is it RGL Film? Where do I go? And I was just going, but it's RGL. And I would like you to just tell me what that is.
What is
Go on.
RGL?
I know you didn't fancy it, but we're going to go. What is RGL?
Okay, well, sorry, I'm here.
Feed me in.
RGL, for me, my kind of business career started off as videography. So 7 years ago, filming people in the gym, filming brands, athletes, all these different kind of things. But recently, in the past year and a half, it's transitioned over to business coaching. And RGL is now, or as I am, is a creative entrepreneurship coach. And it's incredible because I get to take photographers and videographers that are exactly where I was 7 years ago and say, right, boys and gals, this is how you're going to make it. And it's an incredibly fulfilling thing to do, to have that kind of rap sheet of history, package it and deliver it as support, instead of just carrying it around with you and not making any use of it. So yeah, RGL, the official business name for videography was always RGL Film House, because I was one of those wanky types that was like, oh, Film House sounds dead cool, I'll use that, and doesn't really, but it's just stuck. And yeah, over the years, it's just been whittled down to RGL. Everybody just calls it RGL.
You said in the kitchen, are you one of the leading brands in what you do, sort of online business and coaching with video? Because I've never heard of it. I'm a videographer, but I'd never heard of online business coaching with videographers. So is it a known thing, or is this quite new in the industry?
It's new because it's new in a new industry. Like videography, photography's been around for decades and decades. But videography has only been proved in the past kind of 10, 15 years through things like YouTube, Vine, Twitch, all this kind of crap. But now, in specific niche industries like fitness, spiritual communities, video is now actually being used as education platform instead of promotional. Like, this is one of the beautiful things that we find the transitions in, is that it's now education, not promo. We don't need to promote anymore. We need to educate. And the education does its promotion for us. So is it a new thing? Well, to answer the very gratifying question that you first asked, where is my brand placed?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say over the years I've managed to get my videography and the brand of videography into the top kind of percentile. Should I use the word world? Well, yeah, because there's only a certain chunk of people like us that are doing it.
You can say universe.
well, it's because I've been very close with like the best photographers in the world, and when I look at them, I'm like, damn, that's a cool place to be. So with videography being relatively new, I could probably pick out maybe 10 or 15 people in the world, and I know a lot of people would put me in that same list. So yeah, we've done all right with videography. With business coaching, there's, again, it's a new on top of a new. It's like, how new is videography? Quite new. So how new is coaching and videography? Even newer. But the coaching in an industry can't come out for another 5 or 6 years after the industry itself is developed, because you need to work in it to learn it to be able to qualify as an educator in it. So now where I am 7 years down the road from creativity, photography, videography, I think, yeah, the stars and stripes, or the stripes, should I say, not to show favoritism or anything, the stripes are very much there to take on the educator role and start changing the game for everybody coming in behind. So I'd say the coaching is pretty damn new.
Right, mate. We'll see. We got through the intro. We smashed it.
Oh, was that just it? I thought we were done. I thought the podcast was done.
Thank you for coming, mate. So now people have got a bit of an idea around what you do. I want to say how I met you. And that was from going to a recent men's circle. I didn't have a clue, again, if we're talking of new, what a men's circle was. And I remember the day of it arriving. I'd had a really long day at work. I'd been to a school. I'd had some kids really giving me hassle. I'd had some beautiful moments too, but I was absolutely knackered. And I got home, and I'm one of these people that when I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it then. There's no in between.
Box needs ticked.
Yeah. I'm definitely doing it. I'm not letting you down. I'm not just going to make an excuse up. It's a new part of my philosophy, but I'm definitely going to make sure I fulfill my agreement.
Yep.
Always do that.
It's part of your character,
So
man.
yeah, and I'm happy that I've managed it, because I did make silly excuses up in the past.
Yep.
And I've built much away from that, because I just think it's really toxic and doesn't bring your truth to the table.
Yeah, you're playing out who you think you are instead of being who you actually are.
It's, exactly that. So I got back 6 o'clock. I lie on the bed, and I've got to get there for 7. And I just have this massive power nap.
Did you go for a pre-circle nap?
Yeah.
I'm out here driving hours and hours up and down the country to get, and you're just chilling out at home having a nap.
15 minutes away.
I'm making sure I'm prepared before the circle, man. I'm bringing support for men, and you're just like, I'll smoke a joint before I chill out. I'll go and see what it's about.
Well, come on, man. Men's circle. It sounds to me, when I've not been before, it could have been anything happening. So I thought, I need to bring my energy, but I'm going to have to get a nap in for that. And then I get there, and I'm probably a little bit late. That's one of my character traits I need to work on.
You were late on the first one, mate.
I was finding it though, finding my feet, finding the area.
Did you sense how enraged everybody was when you got there?
Completely. They're
Absolute
intimidating
jokes,
places.
Absolute joke.
Beautiful. And this is really, I'm trying to explain this in the way that it genuinely came across. I went into the circle. I sort of been following Daniel, who conducts the night. They're called Make Ready Daniel, aren't they? The nights.
Yep, Make Ready Daniel,
right,
and Make Ready Men's Circle.
So I've been in touch with Daniel a little bit, and I got in touch with Daniel through Ali, who's been on this podcast before, Ali West.
Shout out to Ali.
Amazing
West.
human.
Oof.
And then I knew what to expect there a little bit. So we had a hug. It was great energy. I was excited by that. Then I walked around this corner, and there was probably 6 of us, I think, on that night. And this is where you get involved. I don't know really, and I think energy's thrown around a bit too much in the spiritual community.
Yep.
But I was presented with different people, and I'm just going to throw this out. When I met you, there was something electrifying there. But there was a genuine... I like that.
Dude, Daniel is listening to this right now going, I cannot believe you gave Gus that.
Yeah, mate, well,
Do you know the amount of work I'm trying to do with Gus right now, and you're giving him things like that for his ego?
Don't let it float you away, but just take this in the right way. But I think that's just how people operate, isn't it? You know, when you fall in love with somebody, or when you meet your new best mate, or when you meet somebody that you know belongs in your life in some way, shape or form, and you don't know what it is. That was just my experience of that men's circle. It was one of the best encounters I've ever had. It gave me space, solace. I learnt to listen much better. It was a stunning environment that Daniel's created.
Absolutely.
But when I met you, it was one of those, I don't know what it is. I don't know where I am with this, but I want to listen. I just want to learn. So
see that just to add to that. Thank you for saying that.
I really mean it.
That's not even that makes me feel as accepted as it might make you feel. So for me, these type of actions are, this is what I feel like doing. Like right now, I am. We were even talking about identity before. Right now, I'm really feeling and embodying and identifying as this type of energy of person. I can't describe it. But it's making me want to love. It's making me want to lead with love. And even if I don't do it in that type of way, it might make me want to lead with humour and welcoming, etc. And to know that it's received when I'm not necessarily trying to do it makes me feel received by you. So it's this very interesting, it's what I call just an emotional exchange.
Yeah.
And it's not one-sided. So even though you might say, oh, I felt received by you, I'm like, no, dude. you're
were
receiving.
received.
Yeah, like we received each other in that space.
And then it brought that curiosity of who you
dick?
are.
Who is this dick?
So first of all, I just want to go about the men's circle. We'll talk about that a little and how you found it, or if you had helped build it, because I know you've been friends with Daniel for a long time.
Daniel cold called me. That's how I found the circle. Hey bro, would you be interested in a circle? I'm like, that sounds weird.
So take me on the journey, the men's circle. When did it begin, and how did you find out about it? Had you been to some prior as well?
So the men's circle, the Make Ready men's circle with Daniel, plug, which is in Little Eaton near Derby. Every gent needs something like this in his life. Daniel found me online after I worked at a Lee Ewan breathwork seminar in Nottingham at Ali's gym. This is probably going back maybe 3 years or something like that now, I think. And then Daniel just kind of found me on Instagram and just kind of building his group, his circle, and not even the circle. The circle was just an idea at the time, and I didn't know this. But he and I were on each other's radars for quite a while after the breathwork seminar. And then when he came round to getting the circle done, he literally just hit me up. He did what every business owner should do. There's this thing in spirituality, and this is a beautiful thing about mine and Daniel's friendship, is I keep reminding him that there's a business here. And he's like, no, the universe will provide, man. And I'm like, it fucking won't, dude. We need to market. Sorry, you need to market. And I hope he won't resent me saying that. But yeah, there's that good balance where at the start he was doing the work, the cold calls, getting into people. Hey, this is available. Do you want to come and check it out? This is what we do. In the dating world, you can't expect someone to come to you. You have to put yourself out there. You might find through this podcast, I relate a lot to relationships.
We're going to get into them.
Because I think relationships are the same in everything you do. It's just the arena and the final product is different.
This might be the moment where I realised that curiosity that I found with you was what's drawn me into you, because relationships was so powerful in my life, and to the polarities of as
it's
dark
the biggest
as they
question
can be,
mark people have got,
and as
relationships.
beautiful as they can be. So yeah, it could have been that energy where I thought he's got something to share with me. So
with the circle, yeah, he just hit me up. I went along. Very proud to say that I've only missed. I think I've missed two. Missed the first one because I didn't know it existed, and then I missed one maybe 6 months after that because my car broke down. And it's even if you might have a good chunk of you figured out, still need a circle. Even if you have what you think is everything of you figured out, still need a circle. And especially something that is so accurately held, so accurately structured, with a perfect balance of masculinity and femininity. And sometimes for me, like, I don't do a lot of sharing at the circle, and sometimes that can be taken by others as, oh, you're hiding something, or oh, you're not comfortable. I'm a human, I'm the same as everybody. But it's that I'm too busy enjoying being there and learning how to be present for other people that the last thing on my brain is opening my mouth to talk about myself. I'm 35 now, and I've probably spent 28 years in an anxiety-fueled, would you please listen to my problems and validate them so I don't feel lonely? As everybody does spend most of their life, they just don't get it. Their sense of communication is to lead with, here's what my problems are, instead of, hey man, how are you? So the circle is my 3 hours to go, hey man, how are you? And that's, I'd imagine, what you link from me. I think that's a beautiful exchange. Absolutely beautiful exchange.
Have you seen it then, for the year that you've been there and only missed 2 sessions? Have you seen it take different shape and develop throughout?
Yes. It's going from its embryotic state where it was just it's just 7 dudes sitting on logs in the mud just chilling out.
So it's not changed.
Because to see it go from that, to see the work that Daniel's put into it, to see the rest of the team rally around for like manual labour things, and everybody else will pitch in, and again, it's relationship. Daniel has a relationship with the circle. He has a relationship with the spiritual version of himself and then the professional version of himself. And to be a close friend and to see the group and to see the people, and to watch him, you know, every 2 weeks something clicks. It's like, cool, going to do that next week. Cool, going to do that next week. How can I improve? How can I offer a better service to men? And to see that evolution is, yeah, dude, it's just smiling thinking about it. And it's not my circle. It's not somewhere that I go to offload. I'm just there. And that's the toughest thing for me to learn to do in life, is just to be there. And to watch where it is just now. It's still only probably halfway to where it's going to be. So it's got, the circle at the moment is all paved out with compass points and beautiful paving in the middle of a forest, with retaining walls, you know, all the way around it, tiki torches in the forest and in the quarry, the kind of cave-like area that it's in. And you enter through it through the north, and you're guided on a wood chip path that takes you through a really, really small little wooded foresty area. And yeah, you feel like I think that's probably why I don't share, because I have arrived. And we would use the word in the spiritual community, arrived, in so many different things. Like, I have arrived. You're like, oh shit, you've arrived. Great. So I mean arrived in every sense of the word. I have physically arrived and emotionally arrived when I get there. So I do not feel that there's anything left over that needs talked about to get me to an arrival. I'm here, man. And it's thanks to the organisation, the creation of Daniel, and everybody else that goes that's made it what it is.
Did you have anything prior to this then?
Fucking life.
In a similar way, where you can just go and simply listen to males talk or be with one another, even in the gym environment. Is it ever like that, or is this completely new to something you've experienced?
It is completely new, but in a very meant to be type sense. My life has always been emotionally driven. It's always been in a sense of development, either emotionally or personally. We'll say spiritually, because it'll fit with what we're doing. But to find then to find the circle, yeah, there's no reservations I had around it. You usually have some, admittedly, actually, where you're kind of like, am I gonna have to hug some dudes? Am I gonna have to see some what's going on? Am I gonna have to do a naked ice bath? But it's nothing, man. It's just half a dozen dudes sitting in the woods chilling out.
I can promise you, my audience for this podcast won't wince at anything of spirituality or anything being spoken.
Well,
they're going to be like,
there's ritual fellatio that needs performed as soon as every newcomer arrives. We play Soggy Biscuit with the newest people. So
it was that.
You
please
asked
tell
for
me
it.
that the Soggy Biscuit thing.
That's a
must
rugby
have been
thing. That's a rugby
an
thing,
urban
man.
legend, though, surely.
Nope. Rugby boys do it.
Rugby, like
Yeah,
I used to play rugby, you know, back in the day.
Oh, you couldn't have been
Derby.
You couldn't have been you couldn't have been one of the toxic rugby guys. You must have been a good
Soggy
one.
Biscuit. Yeah, that was the only difference between me and Johnny Wilkinson.
The only difference between me and the pros is that I will not eat another man's semen. Is that what you're telling us? Well,
it best be a nice biscuit.
Custard creams, none of this rich tea shit.
The one thing with the men's circle that I've been to 2 sessions now, but
I really hope Daniel promos my business
yeah,
as much
we
as
will
I promo his.
I was missing something in my life. There was a huge gap there, and I really do feel complete in that gap now. It's brought so much to my life. But what I'm looking at doing is
Why are you always late then?
What's that?
Why are you always late then?
Baby.
Oh, right, okay.
You got a baby?
No. Hey, I think we might talk about that as well. One of the emotional intricacies of me versus most males that I know is that I've never experienced fatherhood, and it's whether that's a plus or a minus and this kind of thing.
The only thing that it does, other than opens up the floodgates to true love for me,
right,
is teaches you the value of time.
Yep. Genuinely
time, because you have to operate within it and utilize it in every way that you can.
Gotcha.
And sort of like, Chrissy, are you at home yet? Because I've got a men's circle. Yeah, I've just got to pick up this. Oh yeah, but I need to get off in a minute. Okay. Well, we've got great communication towards it now, but it genuinely, you just have to be there. So it can be difficult at times, but we're humans, man. We're flawed. we've got journeys and paths to go on.
We're just figuring shit out.
But I would want to create more spaces like that. And I'm in talks with Daniel and saying, you know, we've got land. I think some mindsets in this area could really do with some shifting and helping and easing and being together. I just want to see more moments and more places like this popping up and emerging. When I spoke to you two at the end of the first circle, I just said, listen, lads, there's a dynamic you share, which is very special. It's very, very cool what you're doing. And I said to you, it is love. Is it something that you'd, you know, as it goes on, would you ever go down that path or not? You couldn't just tell your truth.
I did absolutely live it. To watch someone like Daniel conduct the circle the way that he does, I see a lot more of emotional qualification in someone like that man than I do myself. Our yin and yang is, I'm systematic, he's free. I might have more concern about a customer experience and the grounds and stuff like that. He'll have more of a concern about, right, is this Buddhist teaching the right one? What am I teaching them? And don't get me wrong, we're not opposites. We're very similar men. It's just our own tendencies to lean one way kick in when you've got something between you like a circle. And I need to stress as well, I'm sounding as if this is mine. I'm just the one that never misses a circle.
Yeah.
So I'm just like the loner in the corner that's like, yeah, I'm part of the furniture. So would I...
Not today, lads.
Checking IDs at the door. Right, soggy biscuit time, boys. It's an interesting one because the spiritual community for me in my own path has always been about the emotional intrinsic development of me and relationships and love and friends and my relationship with myself. Business is very impacted by that, but I've always been slightly reluctant to merge the two. So to answer your question, I am already like coached out of my tits for the business, and a part of that is spiritual development. However, if I was to take on spiritual development coaching or running a circle, I would probably be a bit too business-like or systematic about it, and I wouldn't trust my own grounding or presence enough to handle it the way that Daniel does. But you never know. I might be rammed ass in 3 or 4 years, reincarnate. I've got no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, man. So never say never, but for where I am just now, I would have a little bit more concern that I'm not delivering what the real emotional experience needs to be. And I might have issues with my own ego, my own anxieties. Because as I've said at the start, the circle for me is the chance to shut up. As where if you now put me in a circle and I have to speak and guide and lead, I'm like, am I losing my time here? Am I losing my alone time that the circle once represented to me? I think it's also with business coaching is I probably couldn't coach on business if I was still a videographer, because I'd be too in that to come out of it and put my coaching hat on to then teach it. There's also elements of not childish ownership, but like having your cake and eat it. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, no, I don't want to, just because I like something else. Nothing wrong with that. So there's nothing wrong with me saying, no, I won't lead a circle because I like being at them more. It's selfish, but it's necessarily selfish. I think selfish, depending on the context you use it, is a good word.
I think it's important to be selfish.
100%, dude. That's how
Looking after yourself.
What you bring to the table is the most important part of what your side of the relationship is. Again, relationships. If you ain't bringing what you should be bringing, or at least your closest idea of what is a completion of what you should be bringing, then you're asking someone else to pick up the slack. So I might be asking men at a circle to put up with my anxieties because I haven't dealt with them around the spiritual community, if you know what I mean.
Mate,
so basically, Daniel's a way more complete dude than I am.
This is why
way more chilled out.
We're talking on this front because I would have been speaking to you if I'd have met you in a different environment, probably more about your business and so on. It's just because we have this common share of that men's circle, and it blew my socks off. I've never been through any.
That's all, somebody that is as far down the road as I gauge you to be when it comes to your own path, your own emotional fulfillment, family. animals, ground, community. Like, there's so much selflessness that you've got in your life.
Thank you, man.
To then come to the circle and say that
Genuinely.
is what has given you such a massive chunk. I'm like, holy shit.
It's the masculinity. It's the men coming together to have genuine
Dudes there for dudes, man.
connections, proper chats and real talk.
Yeah.
And I've never been anywhere like that where I felt so at home, so accepted,
Yep.
and I can just be fully honest. There's always this guard with people. I try not to say always all the time now. I say sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's my new one.
Oh, we also need
Sometimes
to remember
a
we're not
guard.
allowed to swear.
Yeah,
Apparently.
we definitely can fucking swear today. But yeah, it just took me back so much for that first experience. Second, I just know this is fulfilling my soul. It's what I want to do now, and this is a part of my life. That's why this podcast has just taken this form so far, is because it's fascinated me. And I met you there. It clearly done something to you because you've barely missed a session. And that's why I wanted to go around here. But what you've just said about mixing business and pleasure in an essence, I fully feel, because I do poetry, and I just did it for expression. I lost a friend to a knife crime incident. I was away. And when I was away, I only had, I was in South Africa at the time, and I had a piece of paper and a pen because I was doing observations of monkeys in a sanctuary.
Right.
I took the day off and I just started writing, and it was the most cathartic, beautiful superpower that
kept
had
coming.
ever happened to me. And it was just out and out and out. And all my life I've been told dyslexic, stupid, can't write. I got kicked out of my school eventually because I wouldn't, especially
join the club.
English. English was the bad one. So because I discovered that, it felt brilliant, and I'd got a tool and a superpower to channel my feelings and inner angst and all those things. But then eventually, because they were getting me validation, and everywhere I was going, people were glorifying me up for it, and I was putting it online, and you get like 20,000 views on something, and then suddenly my dad's took me to London, and I'm performing on a stage with Russell Brand, and then the Rizzle Kicks, and then Mike Skinner, and I'm all over the place. It was wonderful, a great path, but it wasn't the one I'd actually want to choose with my authentic self now.
Because it turned into more of a
It
business
was the
structure.
business and pleasure, and I really just love doing it. And I've gone back round to the, Mikey, get on the treadmill, put a new beat on, write for hours, and I'm like, I end up being on a treadmill for about an hour and a half. Everyone's like, are you all right? Forrest Gump in it. But I've gone back round to that truthful side of the nature towards what it is to me. And the second it went back round to the businessy element, I just fall out of love for it every time. So I know it doesn't belong there necessarily, but I can dip my toe in. I can go into schools. I can do performing. Next week I'm talking to head teachers and so on. I can do it, but if I spent my day trying to conduct a whole week of it, I'd be in a really bad place. I wouldn't be healthy. But that was because my past self, that isn't my authentic self, it's a character-based self, really enjoy the adventure of it and all that. So I love what you've just explained then, and why you necessarily don't think it needs to spill over yet, and you're just letting it be where it's at.
You explaining that to me gives me permission to feel the way that I'm feeling, because I have so many inner conflicts. And one of the things I think is really interesting about emotional development is that there's this incessant thing that you're supposed to dissolve all these contrasts. And it's like, no, they can still exist, but they can now only last for 3.5 seconds. Then you have to make a decision, then conduct yourself accordingly. We don't get rid of the issues. We just condense them into something that's more easily to make a decision over. So when I have these contrasting thoughts, I'm like, am I being selfish in saying this? Am I supposed to take emotional coaching on? Am I supposed to do this? But you've literally just given me permission to feel the way that I'm feeling, and now I totally agree with you, dude. Totally agree with you.
I've always had a reflective part, but it was just act, reflect, act, reflect.
Yep.
And reflection now just comes first.
Yeah.
It's reflect, act, reflect. and then the loop goes on instead of just act.
Yep.
Because I don't have enough time in that gap between reflect and act before to deal with it. And everyone's just tuned out now. They're like, that was some mind fuck.
This is one of the things we talked about with the conversation is I'm not focused on it. I'm just used to be focused on it in quite a manipulative sense. Before our spiritual awakening, whatever. Now I'm conscious of it. Is that there's a big element of me that does work on a value system, and I'm like, right, what am I bringing to the table? Am I bringing value to the table here? So even the conversations we're having, just to turn it to everybody listening at home, we do hope that there is that sensitivity to two people having a conversation, where you're going to take those golden nuggets, and we are relatively cool dudes.
Pretty damn cool, mate.
So
if I don't say so,
I'd imagine our conversations are going to be all right.
Okay, I'm really enjoyed where we've got to.
Don't know how we've got here, but we got somewhere.
I know exactly where I do want to go, though. It is you and the origin story of how you end up becoming this way aligned. Have you always been that curious soul, young kid asking why? And were you slapped down for it, or were you helped to build wise and be curious about the world? Sort of tell me about you and your childhood and where you've come from.
Interesting. I think I was born from okay stock. I was born from relatively successful parents, etc., etc. But around the age of kind of 5 to 6, family was fractured apart, alcoholism, abuse, violence, usual sob story. But what that did do is it now put me externally to childhood. I wasn't allowed to necessarily have a childhood. Life was now defense mode. Life was now violence. It was now moving around. And the main thing that I could worry about is, where is my next meal coming from? Not, oh, mum, can I have the latest PlayStation for Christmas? None of that stuff. Actually, for Christmas, my mum just used to buy us like a t-shirt or something, like a £5 t-shirt, and me and my sister would get the same one in different colours, and we'd be like, we're not twins, right? Like, and she's 3 years older than me. But anyway, I realise I'm very lucky to be first world type of guy that's brought up in the UK, etc. So I don't think that I was Oliver Twist or anything like that, but just never really allowed to be happy in a childhood, an experienced childhood, just always having to be effectively on the run or worry about something. And we talked about this last night at the circle. We inherit a lot of stuff from our parents, and we know we do, but I always remember that my parents were either full of alcohol or antidepressants. They were either arguing or ignoring each other. They were either... one of the famous phrases that my mother always had was, "I'm spending money I don't have." And I'm like, it took me years to figure that out. I'm like, if you don't have it, how can you spend it? So I was basically just kind of vicariously educated into this. You don't ask for things. If it's there, it has to happen. Or if it's there, you just have to accept it. And then moving around a lot, different schools, all this kind of stuff, never being accepted, never having friends. The type of kid, it's like, oh, there's the new kid, right, well, you're going to get your head kicked in by 10 people as soon as you get off the bus, just because you're from a different town. And that was my childhood, that was my life. Parents never knew anything about it, or my mother never knew anything about it. I could come home like with a swollen, bruised, cut face, and a member of the community one time picked me up and put me in a car and was like, "I'm taking you to the police station." I was like a shambles after getting set on by a group of guys. And I was like, "No, don't take me to the police station, they'll just find me." So took me home, dropped me off at home. And the relationship between me and my mother, because the whole life was just trauma and, as I say, defence, like, she never even knew that I could have been hospitalised, or probably should have been hospitalised for some of the beatings I took when I was a kid. I would just go, "Hi, Mum," and walk through the living room and go to my bedroom. And it wasn't registered. There was a child there that needs something. So when you have that type of childhood, I think that for me it manifested or evolved into an external viewpoint of my childhood, where I wasn't in it, I was just watching it happen. And when you do that, you then start to expand your thought process to the world, because everything becomes film-like. You know, you're not immersed in what you're doing. You're totally external to it. But what that also does is it means that a kid grows up without that nurturing instinct of finding who you are. What you have to do is build it. And what I had to do for all of my single digits, teens and 20s, was try and build who I thought I was supposed to be. Taking key components from the lead characters of all the social circles I was in, learning how to talk like them, walk like them, all this bullshit. So yeah, there's memes that I've seen of it, of like people vibrating, and it's like when I'm 8 years old watching a movie, assimilating the main character as my new personality. I'm like that was 28 years of my fucking life.
Wow. Just out of interest, what sort of films might there be of main characters that you feel that was a good one to take, or that was a good one?
Harrison Ford. Okay. Randomly, like Indiana Jones was my favorite movies when I was a kid. Still are to this day. But anything, like there was no systematic approach to it. Like I am going to identify as Tom Cruise. It's whatever is on TV or whatever cool guy is in the social setting that I'm in the background of, because I'm the uncool one. I'm like, yep, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. Where did he get his trousers from? That's where I'm going to take that. He just called him such a word. I'm going to keep that word and I'm going to deliver it in the next social setting. You grow up with this very, not twisted, but this very unfortunate external hero angle of yourself. And that's what we say in filmmaking. The hero angle is a low to high angle, where you're like Captain America type angle. But I was always too angry and resentful to life to even be Captain America. I was more like the dark version of him, if you know what I'm saying.
Definitely. And I'm going to get round to here, but just an idea that sprung out as you were saying all this is, do you think this is where you got a bit of a warped vision towards women from? Because... Who
said I've got a warped vision to
We've had these chats.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the film industry and entertainment industry, James Bond, Indiana Jones to an extent, and they're all this, the saviour, and then the way they can treat women in a way. I'm not a feminist, and I can say that as a truth, but I just love people and diversity.
I feel like I'm going to have to clear this up really quickly before people are like, what? So continue what you're saying.
No, please do. But I was just thinking of, through time, especially in the older films, and how you're saying about different characters and looking at them and thinking how I can assimilate and be like them. There's quite a lot of misogyny within older rooted films and older in the industry. So I was just wondering if there's anything that you've taken from there as a young age and started to implement.
Okay. Now, this is the interesting thing, is I'm actually the opposite to what you would think. So lead character is in control of women, gets women, X, Y, and Z. I'm the opposite. I'm lead character, needs to come home from the fray or needs to leave the battlefield or the movie to find a woman that can accept him and let him know that he is loved and he is strong and he is confident. So I've always believed the power is in a woman's hands, mate. Right. That might be hard for a lot of men to hear, but I've always believed that. So yeah, my this kind of fabrication of a personality or a life, none of it was even 100% intentional. I was just like, this is what I have to do. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a kid. I need to be someone, so let's just pick someone. When it came to women, there was a lot more of that maternal wound and lack of relationship with my mother, which sought me to have a 90 percentile of I'm in control, I'm strong, it's okay, I'm going to protect you, knight in shining armour bullshit. But then the 10% of me that I would keep in my back pocket, which is your kind of Goodwill Hunting moment, where I'm like, I'm praying that you're going to see that I am a broken man and just ask me if I'm okay. And as soon as you do that, I will crumble and I will finally get rid of all this armor. I'll finally get rid of all these barriers. Never fucking came, but you have to give it. Yeah, you have to give it. No, it did, but you have to give it to yourself eventually. And I think that's a really important part of growth. But it's something I always say at the circles. I think that not specific man, woman, but masculine, feminine, is the kind of breakdowns and breakthroughs of a lot of men. For them to understand the balance of energy in the world needs to come at the hands of a woman and needs to come in the hands of some type of feminine energy. We could even say childhood, giving birth to a child, even if you're not in a stable relationship with the mother of that child, the very creation of that kid is feminine. The very creation of that kid is feminine. That is humbling. I can only imagine how humbling that is. For me, because I've never really had the inkling of fatherhood or to have kids, etc., it's allowed me to really have a lot more of an understanding of the feminine and see them as that pure feminine energy, and understand that for my masculinity to have a greater sense of acceptance around me and completion, it needs to be balanced with that feminine. So don't get me wrong, like a lot of my 20s, I used to treat women as a sport, as any dude who thinks I'm a player, I do this, that and the other. But really all you're doing is just bouncing around trying to fill gaps and...
Literally.
Yeah. Boom, boom. And you're also trying to tick number boxes of what you think is going to be in line with the opinion that you have of yourself as a player or running game on women, stuff like that. So yeah, it's that's been a big journey of my masculinity, is truly believing the power of a woman. It's just unfortunate, as normal humans do, not a lot of them understand their own power. As we're masculine men, they don't understand their own masculinity.
I want to go back into your story then, but from what you just said then, why does it always come to the same point for a lot of men about when they've done that numbers game? Me and my friend did it in Australia. We were collecting flags around the world sort of thing, and it was a sport.
Love that. Are you going to talk about the void that you're still left with?
But I just wonder, it is such a conversation I'm always left with, and I felt it myself. We just feel hollow and depressed and not fulfilled whatsoever when you've gone down that path, and I just wonder why that is such a common theme.
Testosterone.
Yeah.
I actually said this to a woman when I was 30. I said to her, I had to stop in the middle of having sex, and I just said, I'm shagged out. And she went, what? And I went, I'm shagged out, I can't do this. And she, not naively, but quite humorously, she was like, oh, well, I wish I was shagged out. And I was like, you don't know what this is like. So yeah, there's two different ways to take that. There's the emotional way to talk about that, or the physical way to talk about that. And just to confirm, I'm not any guru in this at all. I'm a normal dude. But I do think I've got a little 1% figured out, a little bit extra of what dudes need to.
You're qualified to me, mate.
Right. That makes my insecurity feel better. As long as you say that, that's cool. The two polarities is are you asking that physically, or are you asking that emotionally? So if you're asking that emotionally, then it's a confirmation of being faced with an existential void that no matter what you tried to do didn't fill it. So you now have even less of an identity than you did when you set out on your endeavor, because what you tried to set out to achieve to get an identity didn't work. So now it's like doubling down on your lack of identity and completion. It's like doing all this work for years and years, and then somebody grading it as a massive D and giving it back to you, and you looking at this going, okay, well, that confirms that I was an idiot. I didn't think I was at the start, but now I really am. So if you start running game for years and years and you treat women like a sport, on an emotional level, you get very emotionally desensitized to the fact that that is a human that is beneath you, struggling for their lives.
Hopefully it's a human.
Yeah. So there's the complete disassociation with that emotional connection of who this person is. It turns into a complete egoic sense of, I need to do this with you because it is the action of who I think I am should be doing. So you're not even doing what you want to do anymore. You're still trying to build the idea of yourself running game, being a player. The physical part of it is that you can shag yourself out. You can just deplete. And if you spend your entire 20s doing nothing, but the opposite of semen retention, then by the time you start to get to your 30s, all your levels, everything that you should be running on will be pretty much that.
Yeah, out.
So that's your emotional and physical. If that makes sense, it's a balance.
Are you an advocate of semen retention then? Is that something you really like to advocate?
Absolutely. It's quite funny. Me and Daniel talk about this. in the spiritual community, there's still so many egos, right? Even though the whole point in spirituality is to dissolve the ego to an extent. And it now becomes a game of, oh, I'm more spiritual than you. And you're like, that's an ego, don't think you are. And the amount of kind of healers and men that I've met on this path, just me being me, semen retention was something I probably only picked up about like 3 or 4 years ago. But the guys that are successful at it for a number of years, I don't like the way they sell it to me. Because I can just feel from them, I'm like, do you think you're better than me because you've not shot your load in a year? It's like they believe in the energy, the harnessing so much that when you speak to them, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't like maybe this club that you're in. It seems a bit weird.
Half moral hippie like.
Yeah. It's like my hippiness is now soothing my need to continue with my ego. I'm just delivering it in a really spiritual way. I'm just as guilty of it, but I'll call myself out and have a laugh about it.
Yeah.
They do it because they firmly believe that what they're saying. So the semen retention for me, the longest I've ever went is probably about 6 months. But the interesting thing is it's harder to do if you're firing all cylinders, and I haven't been. So being shagged out is almost a good thing to a certain extent. Like having low testosterone, having low libido, all these things that men should be worrying about. And I'm going to talk to the circle about this eventually. It's just that I'm still in my path with this. Some of these depletions of reservoirs emotionally and physically can actually be pretty damn good, because they allow you to replenish. They allow you to replenish anew and actually fill up on the good stuff, fill up on the right stock. So yeah, I view a lot of my downfalls or issues and depletions as, okay, I've hit the bottom of the barrel there. Let's go back to filling that barrel up. But it takes you a while of a few years of being at the bottom of the barrel to realise that it can be refilled.
Tell me some of the feelings that emerge then while you're going through semen retention, and again, go for the emotional and physical elements of what you're experiencing through it.
It's actually quite funny because I fall victim to the same ego that spiritual healers do, where I'm like, oh, my balls are bigger than yours, I'm better than you. There's an element of so it is true, there's an element of you're like, wow, have I got something unlocked or figured out that a lot of other people, or sorry, men don't. But for me, that then kicks into a coaching standpoint, and I'm like, I need to teach people this. I need to show it instead of, maybe keeping it for myself. So let's just say physically, yeah, semen, testosterone, everything that is produced is the life giver. That is the most amount of energy as men that we are going to be able to accumulate in our bodies. And you can feel it physically. You can feel yourself being fuller. You can feel yourself being warmer. Physically, you have a little bit more focus. You have less anxiety, because you're not depleting that life force. Like, depending on how many times you bang one out, you're not depleting that life force every 24 hours or something like that. Could have
created an army last night.
Oh, so many unbirthed swimmers wasted, dude. So yeah, physically, it's nothing short of just good.
Yeah,
just good. Emotionally, even better. It can be tough depending on what your testosterone and your sex hormone levels are. We need to remember, it doesn't matter to me who you are. No amount of spirituality is going to tell me that blood work isn't what it says it is. Right? Oh no, all you need to do is meditate. No, you need to look at some medical assistance with this. So I
believe I'm not ill.
Shout out to Ali West, who was during COVID-19 was like, I believe I'm not going to get COVID. Got COVID. I love Ali. Absolutely, we both do. But I do like to remind people every now and again of those little things.
Reality.
It's a power thing, but whatever. We'll get over it.
Realist spiritualist, isn't it? That's your...
Oh, I'd probably say spiritual realist.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite funny, and Daniel picks me up on it all the time.
Bring you back down to earth.
Exactly, a little bit, yeah. So what was I saying there? The emotional aspect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Semen retention.
Emotional focus, a little bit more mental clarity, etc., etc. You no longer have peaks and troughs in your attitude, because most of a male's attitude, well, maybe not most, I'm not a medical expert, but a lot of a male's attitude and outlook is governed by what's in their balls, what's in their bloodstream. And even for me now with TRT as well, that's something that I'm probably going to bring up at the circle. So fill people in on the TRT.
Yeah.
This is something for women as well. If your man isn't acting or conducting himself in a manner that you may think is conducive to what a good, well-rounded male should be, then draw some of his blood while he's asleep. Send it away to blood lab experts.
Rusty knife, remember?
Exactly. Something. Send his blood away and find out what his testosterone levels are, his estrogen, his sex hormone, liver levels, all these different things. So I knew ever since like my mid-20s that I wasn't running on what a normal guy should be. Couldn't build muscle, couldn't stay awake. Starting to have kind of a lot of sexual disconnect and disability and stuff like this. A lot of it is to do with upbringing. Like a part of my childhood was, right, there's some pita bread and some hot dogs, that's your dinner. And I'm like, cool.
Can I have some mayo?
Oh no, I hate mayonnaise, mate. I hate mayonnaise. Or there's some Muller Crunch Corner yogurts, that's your dinner. Yeah. You know, I would steal money from my mum. I started smoking when I was like 13. Massive thing that we should never be doing. Even vaping as well. But that's another part of me that I'm dealing with and trying to tick off all the right boxes. So I was sowing the seeds for my kind of medical and physical failures right when I was a kid, and they followed me all the way through my 20s into my 30s. And I always knew, I was like, I need to get my levels checked. But it wasn't until really at the start of lockdown that I hit an absolute disgusting health deficit. I was the heaviest I've ever been, the most anxiety fueled that I'd ever been. I had insomnia, eating disorders, and still trying to have sex, still trying to pretend that I'm this guy that I was when I was 26, 27, something like that. And ultimately, the game will humble you, man. Like when you wake up in the morning and who you went to bed with isn't there, that's a humbling experience. And to know that there's an element of you on socials and things of that nature where you're projecting yourself without taking stock of where you really are. It's almost like catfishing. In a way, it's a very subtle version of catfishing, because you haven't admitted to yourself, I need to check my energy, I need to check my mind, all these different kind of things. And then also, because I was so far along a spiritual path, that gave me a get out of jail free card to not worry about other stuff. I'm like, oh, it's okay, I accept that I'm getting older. I'm like, no, don't accept it. Go to the doctors.
This is great.
You don't need to accept it just yet. You're not 73. You're in your mid-30s and you cannot even stand the sight of a woman anymore, can't be touched by one, can't sleep next to one, can't commit, can't do any of this. You really need, there's only so much meditation and vegetables that you can eat before you're going to need to inject something. So that's, you know, I don't want to ruin anyone's kind of spiritual idea of becoming embodied and stuff, because it is a side-by-side. Like my meditations and coaching I've done with Daniel have been incredible. A lot of healing that disconnect with my body, etc., changing a lot of my spiritual practices to embodiment, body scanning, things of that nature. Diet's great, training's great, that kind of stuff. But yeah, the TRT, every male needs to do it. Yeah. If you're close to 30 or over the line, you have to start getting your levels checked every kind of 6 months. You need to know what's in there and what's not in there. And me and Daniel have said this, if every male got their testosterone levels checked and found some resolve for whatever they are, we could probably reduce the male suicide rate by like 60%. We could probably reduce the divorce rate by half.
Mate, I'm really enjoying this. There's so much going on in my head. I had somebody come and talk about menopause, a woman talk about that too. And it was quite funny because she said to me, she was so disgusted by the system because she had no prep towards this. It ruined her marriage. It ruined her relationships and friendships, and the kids fell out of love with her. For 10, 15 years was just going through this until suddenly she found out about hormone replacement therapy and so on. And but she also had the male testosterone given to her.
Yep,
and then she went, and now I fucking get what horniness is. She fully.
Oh, dude, there was a podcast recently. I think it was maybe I don't know. It was another podcaster from in the States, and there was a woman on it who was talking about how she was at a clinic one day, and she was just sitting in the waiting room chilling out, and it was a unisex clinic. She was there for something, but then she felt something slimy on her forearm when she stood up and went to leave the clinic, and she was like, "What the fuck is that?" And then what is that? Sorry, Daniel. and she realised that whoever was sitting in the chair before her was receiving testosterone replacement therapy through the gel, because that's one of the ways you can administer it to the system, is where it's usually NHS that do the gel, and they'll put the gel in your system, and then it becomes topical. It's now a topical administration, and then you goes through the skin and into your system. Wow. So she now spent the next 24 hours with a good dose of men's testosterone running through her system, and she didn't know what it was. She was saying, I just walked around all day and wanted to fuck everything I saw.
It's crazy.
And it was a beautiful thing that she kind of accepted men and started to truly understand that what those issues they're going through aren't necessarily them.
Recently had that conversation with somebody who said the exact same thing. So it's
every woman should try some testosterone, because me, I've had no testosterone for about 10 years now. Wow. I know what it's like to have estrogen in your system.
There was a great podcast on a Rogan with a woman that wrote a book all about testosterone.
I think Ali West sent me that.
Oh, sure. Mate, it's one of the best episodes.
No, it was you actually. Not that long ago.
Oh, mate,
it was just a little excerpt that you put. That
it's
you sent
incredible. But she went to try and disprove this myth about testosterone, the male hormone, because she was really abused as a kid by men. So basically just wanted to explain them as this foul beast, and they use and you can never use your hormones to excuse disgusting acts. Is this where she had
the 180 in her own findings?
She ended up going to all these lectures, listening to all the different studies that have been conducted throughout time and time, and the guy's just saying, listen, don't let your emotions lead this. Just look at the science, look at the numbers, look at the figures, look at the facts.
On paper, you're supposed to be doing this.
And then that's what she did. But, that's how we can overcome anything we're going through. All the mixed emotions and feelings and thoughts that you're going through. What I'm loving about this conversation, do you know mind, body, soul?
Yep.
Having that equation mixed, you find some people just focus on body, or just focus on mind, or just focus on soul. You feel very full and balanced in what you approach. And the same with spirituality, religion and philosophy and science. There's an equation there, and it's taking all the components and listening to it all, and that's how you find a full picture that you can graft and paint. And that's what we're doing now. To look at the science there with hormones and go, this is literally what's happening to the body. This is why it's feeling the way it's feeling. But we're not going to live in our monkey mindsets anymore. We're going to evolve. We're going to elevate. And we're going to use the emotional intelligence that we've got from the spirituality, from the religion, from all these metaphors we're using through time, and create a better world from it. But we can't just sidestep one or the other. We've got to learn from it. And that's what I'm hearing in this discussion now, and what I'm really finding interesting.
If I may, I'd love to fill you in on what life has been like since starting TRT.
Please do.
And just to completely join you on what you've just said, this is one of the funny things about even the spiritual community, is that 8 out of 10 people will get in it just for the sense of positivity. They don't get that spirituality is actually fucking tough. You don't need to make it tough, but true dissolving of that ego and finding more of a balance is, it's horrific. It is horrific at times. So your key word is balance, and that mind, body, soul, emotional, physical, science, spirituality. I believe that we can all be polarized on one side or the other. And so for me, it's finding the balance. So by no means am I saying all you need to do is inject and your life is sorted. I still have to do all my meditations, all my practices, all my affirmations, all my groups. I still have to do all this recovery of trying to get back what I ruined in my 20s and stuff like that. However, the balance is the science along with the spirituality. You know, I'm not Ramdas. I can't just magic. I'm not Wim Hof. I can't just magically make myself impervious to things. I'm a normal dude, just doing normal things. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. I think it's always important to remind people when they're in an arena of development that your word is balance, not achieving the left or the right. It is balancing between the two and learning when one of them needs deployed. It's one of my favorite words. Deployed. Such a good word. So yeah, just to finalize on the TRT thing, is I've only been on TRT now for 2 months. And after just my first couple of days of having medical grade testosterone, obviously synthetic, medical grade testosterone in my system, physically, I'll say physically first, it hasn't massively increased like strength or anything crazy like that. Like I train 5 or 6 days a week. It's just part of me. I wanna try my best to be a little bit happier with my own physique and stuff like that. Really, really simple things. But I love it. It's such a nice structure, and it's part of my heroic image of myself. I'm fine with that. You know, we're still building who we are to a certain extent. So yeah, the physical is all of my aches and pains started to diminish by about 70%, 80%. All the little rotator cuff niggles that I've got, all these little muscular issues and pulls, just started to slowly, I'm like, wow, I actually feel kind of good, man. I feel like I could dance. Like feeling like I have a little bit more life about me. Jumping out of bed in the morning, not getting out of bed and like making all the old man noises. And by the time you even get to have your first piss in the morning, you've just like slipped the disc by the time you get to the toilet. And then when you go back for your second piss a half an hour later, you're like, okay, now I feel a little bit awake that I've moved around. So yeah, physically feeling really good. I didn't feel, like I was saying to you a while ago, I didn't feel like Thanos with 5 stones, but I felt like Thanos with 1. And that's 1 more stone than I've ever had in my life. So for me to be in such an energy and medical deficit, even the smallest starting level of testosterone before I've even done my first blood work has just been great from a physical perspective. In the gym, my hands and my feet don't ache anymore. I was worried I was getting osteoporosis. I couldn't pick up plates because my whole, it felt like that osteo type issue. I can now hold on to weight plates while I'm taking them to the bar to do the useless, pointless move that Ali West would probably shout at me for doing, because it's not conducive of healthy living. All you're trying to do is build muscle, which is very right. But even now, I feel that picking a plate up and taking it to a machine, I now feel able to do that and to move and to be in all these unadvantageous positions. Dude, I can bench 100 kilos. Cool, who cares? I couldn't take a pump handle off of the petrol station to fill up my car, because as soon as I grabbed it, that angle was just brittle, and I'm like, I can't actually do this. And it's not because of one specific injury, it's because of 19 that have all developed. And no matter how much rehab I do, testosterone is the life giver for a man's body. That is part of what helps you heal, and that decides, you know, where certain chemicals in the body go and how your muscles react. So yeah, physically, it's, even at the start, I'm like, posture's improved and stuff like that. As I was saying, Thanos with 1 stone. Emotionally, more mental clarity, less foggy, way more present with people. That is a big thing that I've noticed. Even at the circle, I'm truly with whoever's speaking, as where previously, because of my own mental brain fog that usually causes anxiety, because you've got mixed signals in your brain, things aren't firing the way they should be, you're only sitting there thinking, what am I going to say next? Or you're only sitting there thinking, how am I going to respond to what he said to fix it? Now I'm just like, do you, bro. I'm with you, man. Do you. Doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth, do you. I
enjoyed that saying last night. You do you, bro. I just thought it was so simple, but yeah, I was like, it helps diffuse anything.
It's what I say to myself as well. Like, if I'm having a combative moment when I should be doing something, no one's gonna I'm like, nah, do you, man.
want to be.
There you go. Yeah, always should be doing. I'm like, nah.
Need and should can replace with want.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly. Just do you. So yeah, more mental clarity, less brain fog, a lot more present with people in conversations, able to stay awake through the day, this kind of thing. And then the last thing would probably be, from a sexual perspective, libido. Now, it hasn't turned me into a porn star, and I don't want it to. I would like it to. There's an element of me. There's an element of me that wants to get back that just little raging 25-year-old. I don't. If it like, I'm you know what I'm saying. I'm coming for it.
Yeah.
But what it has done, this is very interesting, and this probably sounds quite predatorial, if I'm honest with you, or animalistic. It's given me the taste back.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, might go out and, go out and see what's out there for me. As where previously I would be in such a self-deprecating position, knowing that I can't offer a woman anything or a sexual environment anything at all because I'm so out of my body, I'm so disconnected. I'm overweight, I'm tired, I've got no testosterone anyway, I can't feel anything. So what is the point in even trying to talk to a woman? Now I'm like, yeah, I'll engage in that conversation because I feel like I've got backup. It's such a strange thing. It's almost as if like a snake can smell, like a shark can smell blood in the water.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can smell the urge. I can smell women again, if you know what I'm saying.
Well,
try my best not to make that sound horrible.
It sounded beautiful to me. I can very much get on board with what you're saying. With that, and with the hormone replacement, and with the semen retention, and then this libido, this is the idea of a question I'm coming to, is for men that really struggle with the mindset we're talking about earlier, where they can't envision anything other than sex, other than being with a woman. I need to get a female, that compulsion and obsession towards it. What do you suggest them when they are on this path of semen retention, that isn't the objective anymore? How do you help them sort of calm their mind or channel their energy other than just women?
Still get your levels checked, because you're imbalanced too far to the right, as where I was imbalanced too far to the left. That's the funny thing. Exactly what you're saying would suggest that is the normal way a healthy guy should be. It's not. The normal way a healthy guy should be is to be able to discern between his physical urges, his medical urges, his chemical urges, and what his emotional interpretation of what they are, and then his stoic ability to say no. Right? If you cannot say no to your body, then there is an element of imbalance there, and you should still get yourself checked, because you will be on the opposite end of the scale as to what I was.
And it could be that, and as well as sort of the emotional side. If it's, I need a woman. If your life is falling to bits,
right, gotcha,
or
right.
Something's going wrong.
I thought you were just talking about just like putting your dick in things.
No, more or less. But if it was woman, it could be a hormonal imbalance inside of you. And also, I suppose it could be what you're not addressing in your life, what you're not going through. Why do you desperately, because that's an easy way for a man to find validation and a moment of lust and, oh my God, this person's letting me see them naked and be with them. This is crazy.
Can I touch your boob?
Yeah.
One of my, in case he's listening to this, a very good friend of mine, Matthew, anytime we talk about dates or seeing women, he always says that. He goes, did she let you touch her boob? And I'm like, not even both of them though. And he's like, no, just one. And then he's like, did you do a sex? I'm like, I love the way he puts it, man.
I just wonder how, and it is very nuanced. It is very, that there's not one size fits all, and it's very much to the human's need at that point of what to go through. So that's why I'm enjoying this conversation of taking it all into account. Is it this side of the fence, or are you really struggling emotionally in your life, and are there challenges that you need to turn and face and go inside, do some work, and look at why you're seeking this validation so much?
Yeah, if it's physical and sensation wise, like I just need to bury my dick in something,
yeah,
and I can't stop thinking about it, then yeah, you need to get your levels checked, get that sorted out. So from an emotional standpoint, it's I don't think I'm past the bar on anything, dude, and I'm still figuring these things out. I think it was a little bit of a godsend for me in a way that I had no testosterone in my system, because it allowed me to find a more spiritual path. Yeah. This is one of the hilarious things. I said this to Daniel as well. I'm like, I'm almost grateful that I was more femininely chemically imbalanced than masculine, because there might have been a big element of me that wouldn't sit still and wouldn't let anybody talk to me, and I would have been combative and all these kind of things. So it's almost like taking that controlling masculine energy away allowed more femininity and spirituality into my life to be more balanced. So now I'm really interested to see how good I am with testosterone, and I've actually found out I'm great, because I'm more present and I'm more calm, and I don't have the anxieties that I used to, even though they're very small, nuanced anxieties. So yeah, dude, I'm still figuring this out. For me, the biggest thing emotionally that got me away from just thinking need to run game, need to do the numbers, need to do this, was actually finding emotionally higher caliber women. And even though you're still kind of doing the numbers, when you actually find emotionally high caliber women, the need for you to seek anything elsewhere goes. And this even goes for casual women that you're just agreeing something casual with. Is I firmly believe that I've been so blessed ever since I was like 15, my first ever love. I've been so blessed with some of the most amazing women that have been put on this planet, all for different reasons. For personality, for humor, for their sense of masculinity, for their professionalism, and then yes, aesthetics and stuff like that as well. So to emotionally get over the need to keep running the numbers, is to admit to yourself that yes, there's a void there. Why am I doing this? To realize that you're probably doing it because of some external archetype opinion you've built of yourself, that you need to run game and you need to be a slob, and you need to just keep banging through as many numbers as you can. To realize, oh shit, I'm not that person. How about if I just slow down, and I don't need to be in a relationship, I don't need to commit, but instead of trying to do 5 a week, how about we do 1 a month? And make sure it's a high caliber, emotionally in-depth thinking woman that maybe I don't want to commit to, but yeah, I'll happily have some type of casual agreement with you. So you're still achieving that element of going for, you know, hookups, going for X, Y, and Z. But the person that you're now doing it with isn't just a body. They're now a person with a really good psyche and really good ambitions. It sounds kind of counterintuitive what I'm saying, but I suppose I'm just describing my own journey. Is that my bar for who I'll commit to is fucking stratospheric, dude. Just because of the women that I've experienced in my life. So I don't look for that anymore. I very much accept the most incredible people, but who are in my life on a casual basis, because we do fit each other's requirements for that little uptake of emotion, connection, sex, whatever it may be.
I can only speak for myself, and that's who I'll ever speak for, but I learn most from experience from somebody. So that's what I like this podcast to be, is hearing people's experiences. And then I'll be able to dissect or just take the nugget out, because I'll be present, I'll be listening, and I'll just take out that moment of, oh, okay,
yeah,
thank
that
you.
little golden nugget.
And it is searching for the nuggets. But when you've got somebody ranting and telling you, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, be more like this, I switch off straight away. Because I'm like, I don't think you've lived it. I don't think you've actually been through that. And you hear a lot of people, keynote speakers, all over the world, giving these talks, getting paid lots of money to do it. But I don't think they've done the actual groundwork.
An interesting thing to also add on to this whole emotional requirement for men to tick off numbers. So we covered the physical, get your levels checked, make sure you're just not a horny dog all the time, because you might be, and we might need to tone that down a little bit.
Goddamn dog.
And that would happen through stuff like looking at your estrogen balance, your sex hormone, all that kind of stuff. So continuing with that physical thing, here's a really interesting thing for you, and I was thinking this in the car on the way here. A very, very good friend of mine, Paddy. Paddy's a high-level fitness coach, works with a number of celebrities. But Paddy is 28 years old. I think he's 28 now. Pretty sure he's 28. I really hope I haven't got that wrong. Love you, dude, if you're listening. Paddy and mine and Paddy's relationship is beautiful. It's really based around emotional development and men being there for each other. And And one thing I've found is so many similarities in Paddy's 28-year-old version as to what I used to be. And we were recently talking about a breakup that he had, and I was like, right, dude, the most important thing that we do here is allow you to break up. Don't do this emotional thing that guys do where they want to make things difficult because it fulfills their need for struggle. Men have a need for struggle. This is one of the things I've found. Men need to struggle. If you present us with war and struggle and these kind of things, we're the first people to go, yes, this is my purpose. Because we live in quite a fictitious world that's just societal and economical, and we find purpose in it, but it's not fulfilling. Purpose for me is emotional, and it always has been. And some people hate that it is for me because it means I don't have an overall life purpose, but it's because I have a daily purpose of my emotional state and because I believe in earth moving love. So it's very, very strange, but we could go into that as well. So when I said to Paddy, I was like, dude, you're the same as me. When you break up with someone, you don't do it cleanly and take ownership over it because you want to go and have the movie moment of renting a fucking piano, going back to her house, going outside her balcony in the rain and singing her a song about how much you love her, even though you're the one that dumped her because you're just a kid. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, cool, let's move away from that need to cause ourselves more strife and trauma because it reminds us as dead men what it's like to feel. There's a lot of what we do that we create for ourselves because we're struggling to feel. So for me, having such in-depth relationships over the years with women has shown me what it's like to truly feel. Having breakdowns has shown me what it's like to be truly vulnerable, these kind of things. So yeah, it's hard. I don't think I'm waffling. I think I'm just explaining where I've been a number of times.
Do you not think that's just ego though? Because the ego to feel alive needs a story to present itself with.
This goes back to what I was saying about the whole hero thing, where it's like, oh, I'm the type of guy that would play a piano outside your window because I've seen a guy do it in a movie when I was 4 and I've internalized it, and now I'm trying to figure out what man I am. It's like a filing system that we have in our brain, especially when it comes to men that are trying to find themselves, is that it's about deployment. What personality or what characteristic do I need to deploy that fits who I think I'm supposed to be in this current situation? It's just nothing but filing cabinets and dudes' brains.
You just see in people's lives where they like completely overarch it with drama all the time, and they claim when they go for a meal with you or have a sit down and a drink, I hate it. I just want it simple. I just
usually women.
Well, and trapped in mind, where they've got this drama story going on, and he did that, so we did that, and I did that, and they did, and it's a beautiful story that you get to live through, and you hold to it, and then you can build a script up, and the next time I meet him, I'm going to act like this, and then this will happen. You're
building your own dialogue.
It enjoys to do it. The ego enjoys to say trapped by drama, and you see a lot of people, it's like you want to keep your ego alive. You want to be in the drama. You can say as much as you like.
Because we need to feel.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking
if we're not feeling positive, we're going to look for something negative to feel.
I just see it seems like that's anybody's story. That's people that are fully struggling to feel through life by being present, enjoying a sunset, enjoying a moment on a farm in a bus or whatever.
They just were fuck.
If you can't feel, then the ego will take place and come and go, oh, I know what to do. I'll create all the wildness and stories for you. And if for good or for bad, at least you're going to be feeling.
I'm trying to think of, completely agree, dude. There's so many different layers to that about different things that I'd love to talk about as well. Yeah, I know you're not pressuring me into some type of tangible answer. You're just asking me for my take on what the emotional aspect of guys that are just running through too many women, etc. It is the age-old classic of just fulfillment, is you're not feeling. When you feel, everything else disappears. When you're actually embodied, when you're experiencing something with a woman, when you're appreciating who that woman is down to her very bones, her true femininity, the numbers that you required for your ego go right out the window. Now, the other interesting thing is that anybody else that probably isn't me would say, oh, well, as soon as you found that person, you found the one. And I'm
We were going to go there.
And I'm like, no, you can be like that with everybody that you're with. I can have a conversation with you and feel so much love and connection with you that this is like I would be sitting having a conversation with a girlfriend of 4 years talking about what we're going to do with our future. Now, it's not the same at all. I'm not being naive and thinking, oh, all love is the same. It's not. You've got the love that you love, and then you've got the love that you would happily end your life knowing that you had, right? So as the men's circle would say, leading with love allows you to get rid of numbers. And they wouldn't say that, I added that last bit on. But to try and give something a little bit tangible to draw a line under what you said and hopefully answer it, leading with that love, having so much more love and appreciation in your relationships completely gets rid of the need for numbers, because you're now not taking 100 number ones to make you 100. Maybe you've found 3 number 33s to make you 100. 3 33s is pretty good. Let me tell you, 3 33s is really good. So we're all trying to get to this 100. And what most guys do, and what I did through my 20s, is like, I'm going to take 100 ones. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to take 100 individuals to try and make my one whole. And I'm like, no, well, I can find the one. I don't think there is the one for everybody. I think there's a lot of the ones. But you know what I'm doing with that kind of calculation analogy?
Fully with you, yeah.
It's like, yo, let's just find 2 50s or 2 33s instead, or 3 33s instead.
The spin for that for me is, do you have any insecurities though?
Hundreds.
For
Sorry, I answered that too quickly.
For them finding their multiple 33s, because it's funny for me
yes, but remember, I love pain.
Yeah, true.
I'll happily watch you go off into the sunset with a guy that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'll learn from that, and I'll cry over that for a long time, and I'll let myself get into a hole because I allow myself to feel things, and I don't run away from pain. Oh, dude, that's a whole other thing we go down.
Do you know what it's let's go there too. It's great because the sexual thing for me has always been a very interesting one, and now I've found my true self. I've had these conversations coming out with my partner, and I'm going, do you know the guy you fell in love with? He is real. He is there, and you met genuine elements of him. But this very new person that you've met now, and my genuine true self, we need to talk about the sexual thing again and realign where we're at, because I've not been truthful with you about who it was and how he operates.
So
and
back
what he
then
needs.
it was the numbers, not a numbers guy, but back then it was just the dude that was doing what the dude wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now it's the dude that I need to be one with you, because I'm now finally feeling that I'm closer to being one with myself.
Yes.
And that is going to change the game.
100%.
Can we take a break and go to the toilet?
Please.
I'd imagine you'll edit that.
3,000 whoop-whoos later.
We are back from a wee break. Let's take the audience back to where we were, because it is very interesting. We started having a bit of a good conversation about it without pressing play.
Now, I'll fill people in on what you've just said to me, and I truly just believe I can be a bit more dynamic than other people because I'm not a seeker. Right now, that's the fundamental thing that I need to explain above everything. But you've just said to me to go back to the whole 33, but what happens when they find their one, etc. How do you deal with that? And I would go, well, I was only 33% invested, so what's the problem? Right? However, when you are not seeking, thinking that there is one human that's out there for you, I believe that there is absolutely world-moving loves, right? But because I've experienced them, that gives me an element of just being chilled out for the rest of my life. Because I've experienced what you could say you were seeking for. I've been leveled to a magnitude that I didn't know was even possible. But then because of the realistic aspects of the real world, and okay, I think you need to, I would still do a little bit of work, but I'm at peace with that. However, I'm not going to accept what you're doing in my life. So I'm going to have to put this to bed and accept that maybe, yeah, you loved and lost. Or in my cases, you loved and removed, right? Not lost, because I wasn't a victim of ever losing someone. I made conscious decisions to say, yo, you need to go and do you. Maybe I'll find you again in 10 years. That'd be nice if I did. So there's an element of seeking that is not within me because I have achieved, right? So it's almost like you've achieved gold in your sport. Now what?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I can educate and I can show love that way, but it's not challenging me the way that trying to achieve a gold was, just to give you a little, an example there. So when it comes to, right, if there's not one person that is your 100%, what about maybe two people that are your 50% on a very agreed, mature, casual basis? That can only exist if the other person is of the same mindset of you. And I'm lucky enough that throughout my life I have found these individuals where you can open and honestly communicate and say, yo, see, because of us, we've got very different lives, we've got very different things going on. In the real world, I really don't think we would work. There might even be something like age or location or something like that in my opinion, basic rules apply. I don't get too spiritual or romantic about things, because that's how you just end up messing things up, because you forget that basic rules apply. And basic rules apply might be, there's too many differences with us. I don't think we would work committed, but I really feel something from you. I really do feel that connection. And the small pockets of time that we spend together, to me, feel like an incredible loving relationship. However, we're not overly invested because we're not seeking, which means we're not expecting the other to fulfill us. So when we leave them and go back to our normal lives, yeah, they're still with us and we think about them fondly, but we're not pining for them. We're not worried that they're out there finding the one, because I am also that person's 33% and they are my 33%. So, there's, it can be quite challenging for people to get their head around.
Yeah.
But it's because you're 80% of the population are seekers. And I'm the same, but I just don't seek in the things that everybody else seek. For me, my seeking is, I don't know, how do I get over my emotional attachment with food? How do I get over my emotional need to be validated in a group and talk when I shouldn't be talking? Not how do I find the one that's going to cuddle me at night and tell me everything's going to be okay. I've had that a lot in a number of different people that I've been in love with, and I'm very grateful for it. So there is an element of fulfillment that I think I've achieved from that allows me to then operate in a very single but still very loving and appreciative sense with who I'm with, and at the same time get rid of the need for numbers. So it's an interesting one.
Have you ever been of the belief there's this perfect one for all?
Absolutely.
And did you,
everybody in the population is at some point.
Did you get grabbed by that? How did it sort of affect your life?
I think a value of mine is, I think there is an absolute human, but for every different stage of your life. So there is the human when you're in your teens and that kind of first love. Then there is the human that's in your early 20s when you think you're an adult, but you're really fucking not. Then there's the one for you in your late 20s that you really think you're an adult and you've got it figured out, but you fucking don't. Fuck. And then there's the one for possibly your crossing over period into the next cycle of becoming 30, etc. So I do believe that you can love on a number of occasions. And I do believe that every time it gets more, not intense, but it becomes more beatific because you're bringing a better version of you to the relationship every time. You're now more experienced, you're now more accepting. And one of the excerpts I've got on my phone on my list of lifetime quotes and paragraphs is, you cannot truly love another without finding space within yourself for that other. So it's very, very interesting. It's like when you're young, you give everything to who you're with in this ridiculous knight in shining armor, throw myself under the bus. Your 100% capacity of a person becomes 99% about them. And then as you get older, that percentage gets less. And then unfortunately, in your late 20s and possible early 30s, it then becomes a balance of 50-50, which if you're not dealing with yourself becomes combative, not welcoming. And then that's when you resist and you fragment off each other instead of warming to each other. But then as I've found it, as I get into my 30s, I'm now bringing like 90% of me to the table, or sometimes 100% of me, so that you are actually now my more than what I already have. you're not filling a 50% gap that I was missing. And I'm also not imbalanced by giving you 99% of me, because I actually need to do that to fulfill the knight in shining armor idea that I've got that love's supposed to be. So one of the best ways I can describe it is that I've always, not always, but since my probably late 20s, I've looked for my more, not my other half.
Yeah.
Or not looked, sorry, been open to and welcoming to. And I've been shown that these things are out there for you. And it's always when you're not looking for it that they just bang into you in a lobby, or you find them in Tesco's and you're like, where the fuck have you been for 35 years? So yeah, there's an element of acceptance with me around the way things are with love and what I've experienced that allows me to not incessantly worry over it, but it allows me to love very deeply with somebody that I'm not 100% committed to, because we are in an agreed, casual, whatever this may be, but we know because of the real world it's not going to work. But let's still spend some time together. Like you and like the time that you and me are spending together right now, we're not best friends that are going to hang around 7 days a week, because damn it, because we can learn as individuals how to make the most out of this 2 hours that we've got. That's a relationship, and that will continue that way for the rest of time, or it'll fragment and it'll dissolve, or it'll intensify and become something else. So yeah, I'm trying not to sound conflicted. I'm trying to sound very fairly contrasting, that we don't have to be all for one and one for all.
Yeah.
But I still believe that is out there. But I believe until that's out there, if you want to get rid of the nature of needing to bang anything that moves, elevate the type of company that you're spending time with, and you'll find that, okay, I don't feel that you're quote unquote the one, but I feel that you're 33% of the one, which is 32% more than what every other person I've been banging is, because they're all just a bunch of ones that I'm trying to make 100 out of. So yeah, if that explains it.
It does.
A little bit better.
And bringing maths into the equation is very important.
Well, Jim Rohn says, he was like, when I teach people, I teach them about money to start off with. He says, everybody knows what money is.
Yeah.
We can count. Cool, let's get started. He doesn't jump in with, who are you? What's your purpose? He jumps in with, what's 1 + 1? Like, 2. It's like, cool, you can comprehend numbers. Let's do some math.
Yeah.
You know?
Mate, it speaks my language. I mean, love, I'm on a similar accord and similar agreement. It's one of our most powerful emotions, and you can channel it with a friend.
Apart from hate, it's the most powerful emotion.
100%. I must say, the only part where I'm now coming into a different element and zone of love that I've never experienced before is with a baby.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is also another reason why I feel that I can comment the way that I can. I said this at the start of the podcast. I've not experienced fatherhood. Well, not that I fucking know of anyway. Maybe a bunch of mini RGLs running around. But I have not experienced that. So for me, my love is the self and another who's a teammate, not necessarily the sacrifice of loving another life that is growing. And it's something very, can I give you a little example of something that humbled me quite a bit? I was at a gig last year or something like that, and I went up to the bar. I was a bit drunk, right? So I need to say that straight disclaimer. I was a bit drunk. And I went up to the bar, and there was a really good looking guy standing at the bar right next to me. Big beard, but he had a shaved head. And he had a shaved head because of hair loss, not because he wanted that to be his look. You could tell where his shadows used to be and stuff. And because I was drunk, I thought it would be a good time to ask him about it, because I'm going through my own kind of hair issues. I've got half the amount of hair that I used to have. I can still pull it off. I can still pull off a hairdo, but you know, it's accepting that in the next few years it's probably going to have to go. Or I'll get a transplant. Sorry, spiritual community. And I went, mate, can I ask you a question? He went, of course you can, mate. It's kind of hardy looking boy as well, right? And I said, when did you, like, what was it like for you when you shaved your hair off? And he just looked at me with disgust, and he looked me up and down, and he went, you don't have kids, do you? As soon as he said that, I was like, shit, I have possibly achieved half of what maybe a real man should be achieving with the whole fatherhood thing. And what he basically meant is you've never loved anything more than what he basically meant in that moment is
That's stunning.
Is you've never loved anybody more than how much you love yourself.
Who was this guy?
Random guy that I needed. I mean,
What
this
a
dude.
genius! That
A guy
I've
that I
never heard
needed.
of anything like that, and that's
And then what he did right at the bar in the middle of a gig is grab my head, bend me over to look at the top of my head, and he went, "You're talking shit. Just shut up and shave it off." And then me, being the drunk me, was like, "Oh yeah, thanks, mate," shaking his hand and all this stuff, thinking, "Am I about to get my ass kicked here?" But there's an element of the biggest element of, like, me never having a relationship with my father. There's a whole other thing, dude. While we're talking about relationships, where it all stems from. And at that moment, I thought I was having a kind of drunk, egoic, brotherly moment where I thought the guy would actually talk to me about it and be like, "Aye, mate, it pissed me off a little bit, but, you know, if it's got to go, dude, it's got to go." But no, straight away, he knows that he identifies as a father, that his purpose on the world is to raise his children. That is who he is. And he fucking let me know that right there without even answering. Didn't ask me who I was, didn't say hello. The first words that came out of his mouth was, "You don't have kids, do you?" And I was like, shit.
Was this in Scotland?
Nah, this was in Manchester, actually. Manchester.
I just got an image of in Scotland, a big burly bloke. But...
He did look. He did.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe why I was more warmed to talk to him, because I was like, this guy's definitely from back up the road. Nope, Manchester, born and bred. So there's loads of things that we can say in that. Like, if I was listening to myself in this podcast, which I obviously will, I'll be like, cool, well, that guy should really show you everything you're talking about is shit, dude, because you haven't achieved half of what a real man should achieve, which is childhood, or fatherhood, sorry. And I'm like, is it? Is it? I believe to a certain extent it is. I don't have any need for, or sorry, not need, I don't have any desire for kids. Maybe that's because I don't have a good relationship with my childhood. I do a lot of, as we talk about, inner child work and things like this. Maybe that has been too much parenting for me. Having to parent my own inner child. I'm like, I'm not doing this with a real kid. Absolutely no way. Or maybe I just feel like even at 35, I've still got another 5, 10, 15, 20 years of my own shit that I want to do because I missed out on the first 26 years of my own life. Because of what? Because of working, rolling your sleeves up, grafting, being the idiot that does every job and works every hour until you pummel yourself in the ground. So yeah, I think there's an element of me where I do give myself get out of jail free cards, but I've learned to compassionately do it because what you want is what you want. There's no amount of spirituality that should tell you need to completely change everything about. Like, as you said with diet, if I want to eat that chocolate bar, I'm going to eat it and not feel bad about myself. I just like extremes. So if I want to spend the next 5 to 10 years on myself and building my businesses and making X amount income and experiencing friends and circles and communities and women, if I want to do that for the next 5, 10 years, I'm going to do it. And that has its own level of fulfillment and completion. However, this specific guy, and there was something very beautifully stoic and masculine about it. And it made me feel very shit about myself. But then after a while, I was like, well, hold on, Gus, you're two different guys.
Yes.
You're successful in very different arenas. So again, that's reminding myself to be compassionate with myself. Just because you haven't popped a kid out, dude, doesn't mean that you don't know anything about masculinity. But my inner child was like, oh my God, please don't hit me. Or maybe my inner child was like, please hit me, I need it.
It's flabbergasted me, and I think that's a beautiful part of it. And I like that you did that exploration.
Always have to.
Him saying, you know, live for more than yourself, in essence, dude. There's more to life than you.
Yep.
When you have kids, you understand that. There's a truth there to him.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's good to really understand you are the one, and you've got to be the important person in your life that you focus on a lot. And if that's appearance, if that's how you're eating, how you're treating other people, whatever it is, I truly believe life has no meaning. You have to give it meaning. You have to make it meaningful. Find purpose, find passion, infuse it. And that can come out in so many different ways. And some people will just find that in when they have a child, it changes all your perspectives round. It just shows you, you know, they can't operate without you.
Yep.
They need me right now. And as soon as you see them in that, I trapped Ella's finger in the door the other day, and she was in excruciating pain. We had to take her to the hospital. I've never actually felt that bad in my life. The pain I was experiencing, but also the love of just holding her, and it's okay, I've got you. I've never been through that before. I've never felt that amount of just emotion wave over me. So it's something for me very special. But I've also felt, without having a daughter, really, really strong emotions happen in my life. That's just one that I've not been through until having a daughter. I think everybody's just different, and everyone's got different purpose and meaning and reason. It's good to explore it all, and then the more you introduce into your life, the more you learn and listen and take in, you'll keep on building and finding that meaning and finding that purpose and finding that passion in life. You just got to keep infusing it and being open for them moments.
Completely agree, dude.
Yeah.
I think to add to it, and maybe to draw another kind of self-supporting line under the sand for me, and to maybe remind me who I am and what I'm doing, is that even though there might not be a child there is another 60 professionals that bank on me for their emotional and professional development. There is still a group of incredible human beings that I have as friends that they don't bank on me for things, but they do have not a requirement or they want to have me in their life. The N word was just about to come. I was about to say need, but no, they want to have me in their life. So I'll give you an interesting challenge, right? And again, this is probably another example of my lack of pleasant childhood. Do you think there's an element of moving into the parental arena that people don't intentionally do, but can use it as a get out of jail free card for not doing the work on themselves? Like now, you know how religion is a higher purpose, which means you no longer need to ask yourself the questions that you should, because you just put the answer up to faith. That's like proper old school Catholicism type stuff in Islam, not necessarily the new age religious experiences that we have now. But I have experience of people that are parents, and I'm like, that child is literally your reason for everything you've not completed in your life.
I think we're all negating for the fact we're animals. but very simply down, we've got this reptilian brain that does want to just reproduce as well. That's an element towards it.
Yep.
And we're really flawed. Humans are just flawed, and we're confused, and we don't know what we're doing, and there's massive byproducts of that. So the circumstances that we put ourselves into and the consequences that come from that are varying. So some people just have lots and lots and lots of sex, and then eventually babies are born, and they've not done the work.
So lucky. Yeah. Like literally, me not having kids is like doing a tour of the Helmand province and coming out without a scratch.
I do. I think there's a truth in what you're saying, but
to an extent,
a big part of it is just confuse people doing what animals end up doing eventually, and then these repercussions coming from it. But I also think if you are tuned in enough, it can propel you into parts of evolution and elevation of your mind that you weren't ready for. And it does take you to those extra, oh my God, there's more to life than me moments quickly.
So you find out how ready for fatherhood you are based on what it makes you do with yourself.
Yes.
It'll either regress you or propel you. Same, like you could just say kids like LSD, man. Are you ready for LSD? Are you ready for, whatever it be, ayahuasca, that kind of thing? If you're not ready, you'll know very quickly after having it. If you are,
but you're in for the ride,
then welcome to the next level. Interesting one, that, isn't it, dude?
It's powerful, man. I fucking enjoyed this a lot. Would you come back?
Dude, 1,000%.
What do you think we need to do next? Where would we take it? Because I will have to wrap this one up because we're over the 2 hour mark by a long shot.
Next time, not talk about shagging so much.
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't think that's possible with us.
the main onus for me today has been like our gauge of each other and what we talk about, and that we're also brought together through a masculine environment that's designed to nurture masculinity and give healthy, forward-thinking men a place to be, and then also the guys who are grieving and going through trauma, etc. So yeah, I think the nature of this specific episode is taking on a bit of a real-world look at masculinity, males, relationships, men's health, this kind of thing. So next one, dude, no idea, trauma.
I like the idea of that because it's nice. We've gone into a very small, minute part of your past. But there's so much that we needed to feed into, and
I think that's another reason why I don't talk at the circle, is because I've had my breakthroughs. That came after breakdowns of unbelievable magnitude. I didn't know that I could break down as much as I have for months, and I mean months, dude. Like spending months on the floor of your bedroom and stuff like that, day after day, just crying. And then having to do the work to come out of that, which I'm still, like, you know, as you say, we're never complete. We're always still working. So there's an element in me that when I sit down at the circle and then it comes to me and it's like, Gus, would you like to share? I'm fed up of sharing my own stuff, because I did it for so many years and I've done it with so many professionals, and I use myself as an example when I deal with other people anyway. So I receive kind of subconsciously through giving, and that emotional exchange is the beatific nature of me not needing to share, because I don't, what comes to my head when someone says, what's going on for you? It's just a smile. I'm like, man, I'm a dude. I'm just doing me. I'm chilling. Like, do you know what I'm saying? So I think, yeah, there's an element of me that's had these massive blocks of years of resolving this trauma from a very systematic, educational and counselling type standpoint, that's now moved into the emotional development of, okay, how do we build the new after we have resolved what's fallen? So yeah, that just a funny one. I think that's another reason of where my lack of sharing stems from in the circle, because I'm like, I'm bored of hearing my own bullshit, boys. I'm bored. I don't want to give my trauma to another new group of people, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, completely.
All my exes could be listening going, well, you fucking gave it to me, so why are you not giving it to these guys?
I really want to go down the line of business at one stage with you, because you're clearly well equipped with that, and
doing all right.
I'm looking forward to learning from you in that way. But honestly, through everything you've shared today, for all your experiences and all your wisdom, I just really do appreciate it. You're an awesome human.
Dude,
I've
with
got a lot of love for you.
With us, we are just getting started, my G. We're just getting started.
I'm ready for the ride. Can you let people know where they can, if they want to speak to you, find your information, all that stuff? You're supposed to do this at the end of a podcast, aren't you?
Yeah, this is. I thought about this actually, and I was like, gosh, you really are picking a hell of a time to be on so many podcasts, because your website isn't ready. You don't have anyone to send anyone anywhere. But on Instagram, you can just type in RGL. That's it, RGL, and my business and personal page will pop up first. But moving forward with my little bit of a professional plug, but with my business development, entrepreneurship coaching, to find out a lot about my kind of story and background with business, I'm pretty sure it's going to be rglcoaching.com. Got the domain, just haven't really put everything together yet. Website's nearly finished. But as with any like up their own arse creator, I can design a website easy, I can make it look incredible, I can put everything into it. But then the hardest thing is the name. I'm like, oh, does it need to be RGL Film House Educational Academy? Does it need to be coaching? But yeah, probably RGL Coaching, but best place to get me, and especially for nothing to do with business. Individuals that are listening.
I think that's what you're gonna get.
If stuff's resonated, like, hit me up. Obviously, because of the accent, I am the voice note king. Expect 10 minutes worth of Scottish back from just asking one question. But yeah, RGL, anywhere you want to get me, I'm there, man.
Mate, I'll put you in the description. Down here somewhere.
Thank
Don't know where
you,
I'm
dude.
pointing to.
I'll put you in my heart and take you with me.
I'll do my bit. Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I'm going to leave you on this. I always do and I always will. Just be nice to one another, you beautiful set of buggers. That's all you got to do for me. I love you.